I'm running blind. The fog is a wall I can't see through. It tastes like cold metal. I can hear something right behind me, soft, wet slaps on leaves, keeping pace. I glance back, and there it is for a heartbeat. Tall, ash-colored, head cocked so far to the side it shouldn't be possible. It points, a long, thin finger. Then the fog eats it whole. I burst out of the trees onto the dirt road, and everything stops. Sound dies. The fog is gone. Nothing behind me. Nothing. I stand there shaking, listening for my own heart. That's when I promise myself two things. Never alone. Never White Hollow Ridge again. I hit the road and the sound cuts off like someone switched a light. No slaps, no fog, nothing but the truck's engine cooling and a distant owl. I freeze. For a long time, I think I imagine the whole thing. Then I look at my boots. They're caked with mud the color of old blood. My hands are numb. I drive home with the heater blasting and the windows open to the cold night, as if letting the cold out would keep whatever that was out too. It started that morning like any other hunt. I'm from northern Michigan. I know these woods. I like the small routine. Black coffee, check the rifle, maps folded on the passenger seat. I was going after a buck, wounded, limping. White Hollow Ridge sits back where the road narrows and the map wrinkles. People say the place has its own weather. I always laughed at that. I didn't laugh that day. I found tracks, deep, angry prints, blood, thin and dark, smeared on leaves. I followed a line of broken twigs deeper into the ridge. The trees here are close, maples and hemlocks with limbs like ribs. The world gets quieter as you go in. Even birds shut up. I called low, tried to coax the buck, trying to keep calm. Hunters learned to listen. That morning, the woods were listening back. It came without warning. One moment, the path was clear. The next, a wall of gray rolled in from downhill like someone poured milk across the valley. It moved fast, like a tide. It wasn't the safe, pretty fog you get at dawn. This one was thick and cold, and it wrapped around me, seizing the sound. My breath fogged right into it. I reached out and couldn't see my own hand. Then I heard them. At first I thought it was my pulse, slow. Then the slaps started, bare feet on wet leaves. Slow at first, then they moved in slow circles around me, like someone deciding which way to cut. The sound had no weight, no leather tread, no metal, just wet, soft smacks. I called out, "Hello? Who's there?" And my voice came back thin. I kept calling, louder this time. I thought maybe someone was lost, a kid or another hunter. No answer, just the steps, always outside the veil. Every time the fog thinned, the steps fell silent, like someone holding their breath. I heard nothing but that methodical slapping. My voice began to sound small in my head. I remember suddenly thinking how alone I was, how stupid. Then for a split second, the fog thinned like a curtain. I saw it, close, only a few yards away. It was tall, too thin, ash-gray skin like tree bark rubbed smooth, no hair, bare feet sinking slightly into the wet leaf litter. Its head tilted so far to the side that the shadow of its jaw pointed at the sky. Its face wasn't human, too long, too stretched, and its eyes were pits that stole the light. It was just standing, staring. I had time to see the way its neck should have broken if it were human. I didn't run then. I couldn't. It raised its hand, too long, too thin. The finger pointed at me, not as an accusation, more like a confirmation, as if it had found the name it'd been whispering. At that moment, everything made a single cold, bright sound in my skull. My legs turned to stone. The world narrowed to two things, that finger and my own breath. Somewhere a switch flipped. I tore away, stumbling through roots and brambles, desperate for the truck. The fog closed behind me like a fist. The steps started again, just behind me, matching my pace. They were never on top of me, always just a beat off. If I cut left, they cut left. If I sprinted, they sprinted. I could hear them track my heartbeat like a conductor. I hit the tree line and burst into the open. Everything went mute, cold and clean. The fog stayed in the woods. The slap stopped. I reached the dirt road and everything stopped. The walnut silence after the storm. No fog, no footsteps, no sound at all. My truck looked small and ordinary under the street lamp's weak pool. I thought of going back in, looking for whatever had followed me just to prove something to myself. I didn't. I drove home in a kind of numb shock. When I pulled my muddy gloves off, I noticed something in the palm, tiny scratches like the scars of a fingernail. I still have them. I still hunt, I still walk through woods, but I never go back to White Hollow Ridge. I never go alone. I sleep with a light on for weeks after a trip there. I learned things, small, sharp rules. Don't call out into fog. Don't chase something that won't let itself be chased. And never follow footsteps that aren't yours. I need you to believe me when I say this. The cabin wasn't there the day before. And if Mark and I hadn't gotten out when we did, I don't think either of us would still be here. Every night since 2021, I still wake up hearing those footsteps in a place that shouldn't exist. Let me start at the moment everything went wrong. Mark and I were deep in the Appalachian backcountry, far off any trail. We were trying to beat a storm that the weather app said was just passing clouds. Yeah, right. The sky cracked open like it was angry at us. Rain hit so hard it felt like gravel. Our map showed nothing for miles. No roads, no shelters, no cabins. But as the storm swallowed the valley, we saw it. A warm light, a single window glowing between the trees. "Mark," I said, "that wasn't on the map, right?" He shook his head, and we kept walking anyway. The cabin shouldn't have been there. Not because it looked old, but because it looked new. Fresh cut wood, a lantern hanging by the door, smoke from the chimney. We knocked. No answer. The door creaked open on its own, like it had been waiting. Inside, there was a fire burning, a pot of stew simmering, a coat draped over a wooden chair. It looked lived in, but felt dead. Our breath fogged the air, even standing inches from the fire. Mark reached for the coat. "Don't," I whispered. I don't know why, maybe instinct. He lifted it anyway. The smell hit us like a punch, rotting soil, like a grave that had just been opened. Mark gagged. "What the hell?" I noticed something underneath the chair. A notebook, its pages warped from moisture, covered in dirt. I picked it up. The first entry was shaky. It watches from the trees. Next page. The cabin moves, shifts, follows me. I turned toward the door to tell Mark we needed to leave, but the door was gone. Where the doorway had been was now a solid wooden wall, like it had never existed. I froze. "Mark, the door." He looked, expecting to see me exaggerating. Then he saw it. His face drained of color. That's when the fire went out, instantly. No dying crackle, just gone. Darkness swallowed the room. Then we heard it. Footsteps, above us. A slow, dragging walk across a floor that didn't exist. Mark whispered, There's no second floor." The footsteps stopped directly above us, right over our heads. A long, low creak pressed through the wood. Something leaned its weight down, like it was listening. I held my breath. Another creak, slow, purposeful. We needed to get out. I grabbed the nearest window and shoved it, but it wouldn't budge, until Mark rammed his shoulder into it. The glass shattered outward. Cold rain blasted into the cabin. We climbed out into the storm, slipping in the mud. I didn't look back until we were 20 feet away. When we finally turned around, the cabin was gone. Not collapsed, not burned, just gone. In its place, nothing but dripping trees and mud. Mark whispered, "It was right there, it was right there." I didn't respond, because the forest felt wrong, too quiet, even in the storm. Then I saw something between the trees, a shape, tall, still, watching. The same shape described in the notebook. We didn't stop running until the storm ended and the sun came up. We didn't speak for hours. We still don't talk about it much. But every once in a while, I swear I see a faint light in the woods, like a window glowing. And every time, I pray the cabin doesn't find me again. Before I finish, there's something you need to know. 2 days after we escaped, Mark checked the satellite map again. There was something new on it, a small structure, in the exact spot where we saw the cabin. The date next to the update said, "Added yesterday," and the note beneath it said, "Building first observed 2021, reported abandoned." But we were there. We saw it appear. We saw it vanish, and something inside saw us. So if you're ever hiking in the Appalachians and see a warm glow through the trees, don't go inside. And whatever you do, don't turn your back on it. If you're enjoying these stories, hit that like button, comment your favorite story, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales every week. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new upload. I want to start this by saying one thing. If you ever hear someone screaming for help on Wolfjaw Mountain, do not answer, because it might answer back. I learned that the hard way. I'm telling this story now because I haven't slept a full night since 2016. Some nights I still hear it, the voice, the scream, the whatever that thing was echoing just outside my window, like it somehow followed me home. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you what really happened up there. Back in October of 2016, 3 friends and I planned a climbing trip in the Adirondacks. We'd done Wolfjaw Mountain before, but we wanted to climb a different route, something more remote, less traveled. It was cold, but the sky was clear. We set up camp near a cliff face that locals said people avoided. We laughed that off. We weren't superstitious. Not yet. Around midnight, we were sitting around the fire when the first scream echoed across the valley. It was high-pitched, sharp, but what made us freeze was how human it sounded. Jenna, the bravest in our group, stood up and said, "That's not an animal." I wanted to disagree. I wanted to pretend it was a mountain lion, a fox, something normal, something safe. But the scream came again, and this time it ended with a strange twist in tone, like a person trying to mimic an animal and failing. The sound crawled into my bones. None of us moved, until Jenna clicked on her flashlight. She pointed it toward the cliff. At first we saw nothing but rock and shadow. Then something shifted, something clinging to the rock wall about 30 feet above the ground. At first I thought it was a person, until I realized the limbs were too long, the body too thin, the joints bent the wrong way like broken branches. It turned its head toward us, and in the beam of the flashlight, the eyes caught the light. Big, pale, reflective. Not human, not animal. Something else. Then it opened its mouth and screamed again. But this time, I could hear words inside the scream, like something trying to imitate us. Like it was practicing, and then it moved. Not down, not up, sideways. It scuttled along the rock face like a spider, its limbs scraping stone, bending and twisting with unnatural speed. I felt every instinct in my body scream, "Run," so we did. We grabbed our packs and sprinted toward the trail. Behind us, the thing kept pace, still clinging to the wall, never touching the ground, sliding across the stone like it weighed nothing. It wasn't chasing us, it was following us, studying us. Every few seconds, it let out that awful scream. But now, between each shriek, I heard something whispered in a trembling, broken voice. "Help me," like a human trapped inside the sound. We reached the trailhead in record time. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember thinking. I just remember the sound of scraping rock behind us, keeping pace with terrifying ease. When the parking lot came into view, I nearly cried. We threw ourselves into the truck, slammed the doors, and locked everything. The creature stopped at the tree line. It clung to a tall pine tree, its limbs wrapped around the trunk like a starving insect. Its chest rose and fell in jerky, unnatural movements. Then it let out one last scream, so loud the windshield vibrated, and then it vanished into the dark. We didn't stop driving until we reached the nearest town. The next morning, we returned with rangers. They didn't say much, but I watched their faces pale when they saw the scratches on the cliff. Deep gouges high above human reach. The marks looked burned into the rock, as if something hot or corrosive had dragged across it. One ranger muttered, "Again, it happened again." That was the last thing he said about it. The area is still open to hikers, and people still go there, tourists who don't know the stories. But locals know better. They never answer screams up there, because sometimes those screams aren't human, and sometimes responding is exactly what it wants. I wish I could tell you it ended there, but last winter I heard it again, not in the mountains, outside my house, just before sunrise, carried on the wind, that same broken scream twisting into a faint whisper, "Help me." I haven't gone back to Wolfjaw Mountain, but I think the mountain came back to me. If you ever go hiking there, and you hear something calling your name, do not answer. I don't know how long I'll have before the rangers come looking for me. But if you're hearing this, if anyone is hearing this, don't go near that creek trail in Glacier National Park. I used to think the legend of Ranger Michael Hale was just that, a legend. A missing ranger, a strange radio transmission, and a bunch of campfire stories. But last night, I heard something on my radio. Something breathing, and I think it was calling my name. I shouldn't have gone out there. I should have listened, but it's too late now. I was a new ranger then, back in 2008. I remember the night Hale disappeared. Everyone does. I wasn't there, but the older rangers still talk about it like it happened yesterday. They said Hale responded to screams near an unmarked creek trail. At 2:17 a.m., he radioed in, found tracks heading north. Barefoot, looks like adult male. His voice was calm, too calm. And then something changed in his tone. These tracks, they're doubling back, following me. After that, only static. When the search teams went out, all they found were his flashlight, his radio, and his hat. His footprints ended on a patch of moss. Perfect, untouched moss. As if he vanished straight up. Even back then, the story made my skin crawl. But I never imagined I'd be the one to hear his voice again. 17 years later, I was doing a routine night shift at the station. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. And then, around 2 a.m., Hale's old channel lit up. A faint static hum, a dragging breath. At first, I thought it was interference. Old equipment glitches all the time out there. But then I heard something that froze my spine. Is someone there? The voice was broken, weak, like it was speaking through water. But I recognized it. We all did. Every ranger hears recordings of Hale's last transmission during training. It was him. Or something trying to sound like him. I grabbed my gear and headed toward the creek trail. I know, that was my mistake. But when you hear someone begging for help, even a ghost, part of you goes. The forest was silent. No wind, no insects, nothing. It felt wrong. My boots crunched softly over the frozen dirt as I followed the trail. About half a mile in, I found them. Barefoot tracks, just like Hale described. Adult-sized, deep impressions, leading north. I called out, "Michael? Ranger Hale? Are you out here?" No answer. Just that same breathing through my radio, wet, slow, like something huge had its mouth right against the speaker. I followed the tracks deeper, and that's when I realized something that made my stomach twist. The prints weren't leading away. They were circling me. Slowly, deliberately. My radio crackled. "Behind you." The voice was clearer this time, closer. I spun around, shining my light into the trees. Nothing, but I could hear it. Something big moving just out of sight, fast, too fast for a person. Branches snapped, leaves rustled, something climbed. I tilted my flashlight upward, and I swear I saw something leap from one treetop to another. Impossibly fast, a blur of pale limbs and matted hair. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. My legs locked. Then Hale's voice whispered again, "Don't look at its face." I stumbled into a small clearing. The moss there was soft, untouched, perfect, just like the place where Hale disappeared. The radio hissed, louder now. "It wants you to run." I aimed my flashlight around, searching for any movement. Then I saw them. My own footprints. They led right up to the moss and stopped, just like his. My throat tightened. No, 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 no. Something shifted behind me. Twigs cracked, a slow inhaling breath. I didn't run. I bolted. I sprinted through the trees, breathing hard, branches slashing my face. The thing was right behind me. I could hear it crashing through brush, faster than any animal, heavier than any person. The radio screamed with static. Something growled through it, deep, wet, hungry. I tripped, hit the ground hard, and rolled onto my back. My flashlight landed a few feet away, still on, its beam pointing into the dark. That's when I saw it step into the light. Long limbs, distorted shoulders, skin stretched tight and pale, its head wrong, bent at an angle no neck should allow, and its eyes, God, its eyes were glowing like embers. It leaned close to the radio clipped to my vest and breathed in, slow, deliberate, like it was smelling me. I don't remember standing. I don't remember running. All I remember is bursting back into the ranger station and slamming the door shut behind me. I collapsed on the floor, gasping, staring at the radio. It was still on, still hissing softly. Then, one last time, Hale's voice, clear, closely spoken, almost human. "You didn't look at its face. Good, but it looked at yours." I froze. The radio clicked off. The room went silent, and from outside the window I heard breathing. Right against the glass. I've been hearing that breathing for hours now. It doesn't leave, it doesn't move, it just waits. If I disappear like Hale, if they find my footprints ending in the moss, please don't investigate. Don't listen to the radio if you hear breathing. And whatever you do, don't look at its face. Thanks for watching Sinister Horror Diaries. Until next time, stay safe, stay scared, stay sinister.